All right, we're going to try this again. We don't seem to have the same problem. That's good.
Good.
All right.
That's good.
Thank you for your patience, everybody. So this is my first live, and we'll see how it goes. So welcome back to Hidden Blessings Homestead, and we have Kendra from Plowman's Backyard.
Hello.
And today we are discussing buying seeds part 2. So today we're going to be discussing tomatoes and corn, potatoes and onions. Probably not in that order, but we're just going to see how it goes and how it flows. So I was wondering if you wanted to start with corn.
Yeah.
All right. So with corn in the past, we've grown not just sweet corn, but some painted mountain corn, which is like a flour corn. You can also make cornmeal out of it, which is what we tended to do with it. And it's a nice short season corn. So it's nice that way for northern growers. And it's beautiful. It is like the most beautiful corn, besides glass gem, probably, that I have ever seen in person.
Wow.
And it was like a surprise every time you were opening it. You know, it was just really fantastic. So yeah, that was one of my favorite. Hi, Dave. Thank you for joining.
Part 2 of 2.
Oh, yes. Well, you know, the first live stream had to have a few little hiccups, right?
That's right.
Yeah, so we grew Painted Mountain, and it did fantastic here. It's good in cool soil. It's just really, really cool. And basically, the history on it, if nobody knows, is he took a whole bunch of mountain Native American corn. This is the best of my knowledge, anyways, and bred them together. And he was looking for something that would grow short season in cool summers, reliably, like in a mountain condition and stuff like that. So it makes it perfect for, us northern growers.
Mm-hmm.
But there's another one on his website. So I should show, I wonder if I can show, I don't even know how to do that. But I know that I would be able to screen share, and I'm not going to try this time. It's my first time. So anyways, I can put a link up though. Let's see here. To his. So. All right, let's see here. So here's a link to the website for everybody if you wanted to check it out. And North Frontier Farms also has another variety that I was really interested in. I'm just trying to think of what it's called. It's Montana. I don't know if I'll pronounce it right. Montano Murado maize. Anyways, it's a really soft flour corn. So I was thinking of trying that one too, because it's 90 to 110 days. It's supposed to be kind of similar, where it grows in really cool. And I believe it's supposed to recover from frost. So like even if you get like that late frost in the season, it's supposed to kind of be resilient that way. So I really like that. So that's kind of where I'm at with flour corn. I haven't got a huge amount of experience with it, but we did enjoy growing those two varieties. And then for our open pollinated sweet corn, we grew Who Gets Kissed corn, which is from High Mowing Seeds. And being open pollinated, it was the closest. It was close enough. My husband's a real, he likes the hybrid corn and stuff like that. He likes sweet corn, really nice sweet corn. And it was close enough that he was happy. So it's kind of like a peaches and cream. So it has the bicolor and nice large cobs. I think they're 7 to 8 inches. And it was really nice. The only thing was it's kind of a little bit later in the season. So it's like 78 to 84 days. So, it's kind of iffy. So that's kind of something that, so we have seed for it. And if I have to grow it, it is open pollinated, so I'll be able to save seed. But we kind of have gone back to a hybrid for his sake. So we now grow Cafe, which is from William Dam, and it's a F1, so it's a hybrid. It's 7.5 inches long, and it's also good for cold weather. And it's 66 days, so it's
Nice.
really early. So you can have it as an early season, and then, anyways, yeah.
That is good. I know we were growing the Who Gets Kiss corn as well, but we just found that every year it was like, I think we did it 3 years in a row, and one year we actually could eat the corn, and the other ones it just wouldn't finish in time, because even though the temperature was right, our soil was still too cold and it just wouldn't start. So we had to go another direction, go a little bit earlier than that. But it was a good corn if we could get it to finish.
Yeah. So I see Dave says he grew popcorn for fun, and it was 100 days. How did it turn out for you? Or is it coming up this year that you're going to grow it? I've thought about growing popcorn. The glass gem we purchased because it is a popcorn, but you can also do it as like a cornmeal corn as well. So we haven't planted it yet. My problem is trying to grow multiple corn in a small kind of area,
Yeah.
because corn is wind pollinated. So if you grow two varieties together, you're going to hybridize. And that hybrid, if you're talking tomatoes, you're not going to notice in the tomato right now. It would be their offspring. But in corn, it's right away. So you're
Wow.
eating the seed, right? So you're noticing right away.
That's true.
So if you say grow a sweet corn and a field corn together, it might make your sweet corn, less sweet. It might have the characteristics of the field corn, or the flower corn, or the, etc. So it's kind of one of those things where they say because it's wind pollinated, it can go an average of 500 feet. I mean, on the prairies, it could go, but if you have buildings around, or if you have trees, some people have talked about just planting a row of like a few rows of sunflowers that are tall varieties, just something to break it up so the pollen will land there instead of landing on the other corn. So we've actually tried that in the past. We've done two different varieties, and we've put sunflowers in between. And so Dave said he got an 8-liter jar. The drying was a learning curve. Yes. Yeah, we had corn hanging everywhere in our house when we did the painted mountain corn. Trying to dry it all was interesting. With the wood stove, thankfully, it's not too bad, but you have to have space for it. And I think we kind of braided them, and I don't know. We did all kinds of stuff, hung them everywhere in all kinds of different ways. Hi.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for coming. So if there's anyone else has grown any other varieties of corn, definitely mention what you think of them and where you got them in the comments. You were saying you grew.
So what I grow right now is Allure, and it's also an F1, so it's a hybridized corn. But it's about, let's see, I've got it here. So I get it from High Mowing Seeds, and it is 75 days. So kind of like the Who Gets Kiss corn, but with the Who Gets Kiss corn, it's like 75 to like 84 or something. So there's that chance it could be longer. This one, we found that it usually always finishes on time. So it's just a matter of like 10 days makes a huge difference.
It really does.
It's really sweet. So it is also like the bicolor corn. But we found that it's really close to the same size corn that you would buy from a farmer's market or from the store. Like it's like a full size corn. And I find that it's sweeter after you pick it. Like leave it for a couple days in the fridge. It's sweeter a little bit after you pick it. So, but yeah, we love it. It's done really well, and I would keep growing it. But last year I went to order some, and they were out of stock. And I was just reading like this year's catalog, and it says limited supply of 2024. So I might not get any this year either.
Oh,
It's a
I
really
will have
good
to,
corn though.
yeah, I'll have to check if I still have some. So we grew the cafe as an early, and we grew the allure as a later one. And the only thing I found is that, do you have any trouble with the corn earworms?
Um,
Would they burrow into the cob and stuff?
so I want to say 2 years ago we had a couple like that, but for the most part we haven't.
Do you remember what corn you were growing then? Because I'm
Which
just wondering,
corn?
yeah, if it was a later
It was
season.
it was the lure.
Oh, okay.
That's all. Like, so for the last, it has to have been the last 4 years we've had the lure corn, I want to say. Well, last year I didn't have it because they were out of stock, but
Yeah, so I noticed with the, that's why I kind of stuck to the cafe between the two of them. The earlier my corn is, the less the chance I'm going to have them for some reason.
ah,
So I noticed that with the cafe, I don't have a problem, but then with the allure, I might. So I know that there's ways that you can prevent them and stuff like that, but for me, that's kind of what tipped the balance. I like the allure corn, I really do, because it's
yeah, I really
bicolored and
liked it.
it's really nice.
It is
Um,
nice.
Cafe is really nice as well, but it's not bicolor, it's just yellow. Um,
Is
but
it
it
like
is
a full
really
size
sweet.
as well?
Yeah, it's a decent size. I don't have, it's a little, I want to say it's comparable to Who Gets Kissed, because
Okay,
it says it's about 7.5 inches and Who Gets Kissed is 7 to 8. So it's somewhere in there.
nice.
But yeah, if the allure keeps working for you, just go with that because it's really nice. Um, so yeah, that's our favorite corn. Maybe we'll move on to, what do you want to do next, Kendra?
Let Don't know. You want to do onions or get into the tomatoes?
Tomatoes? All right. One of our
Lots
favorite
of
subjects.
tomatoes. Oh yes. There's so many to choose from and choices. I love it.
So I guess I'll start with my favorite cherry tomato,
Oh,
sun
sun
sugar.
sugar.
Oh, I remember the first time I brought these home. I actually bought plants because I didn't know about the seeds at the time. I bought plants and I brought them home and I put it in a pot, a really large pot. And everybody that came by the greenhouse that tried them was like, "Oh, I gotta have some of those cherry tomatoes." They were just like sweet, almost tropical, like just
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. And I didn't really prune it a lot. I just let it bush out, and it was just prolific. They just grew so many. So I've been growing it
Wow.
pretty much ever since. And I have to say, I think it's just like my favorite. Like if I couldn't grow another cherry tomato, that's the only one I would grow, I think. I like the sweet 1000s as well, but that's, if I have to grow a red one.
That's right. Yeah. I like that one too. It's kind of like, well, if you want an abundance of cherry tomatoes, that's kind of the one you go for, but
The one thing about them that I should mention is that they do crack. So if you had them outside or you pick them, what I tend to do is pick them just a tiny bit early. They get really, really deep orange, but if you pick them just a little bit under that, then you bring them inside and they don't seem to do that so much. So, but they produce so many anyways that it's okay. Another one that I used to like that people coming by would really enjoy was chocolate cherry, but they're not always easy to get seeds for.
mm.
But yeah, those two are probably favorite taste-wise. They're really good. What's a cherry you like to grow? I think you were mentioning one about your you got from your dad or something to me the other
Oh,
day.
so I've had these tiny Tim seeds. It's not like it's my favorite seed to grow, but he used to always grow it. So um, I have just a couple seeds left here that I think that I saved from his tomato plant. I don't know. I want to say around 2008 is when I harvested seeds from it, and I just have a couple left. So I've got a plant growing here that I'm hoping to save some seeds from. But yeah, I just grew it because it was something that he liked, and he's no longer around. So I like to grow it for that reason. But um, I really like the sun sugar and the sun gold cherry tomatoes, and the sweet million I grow just to have a red one, but it's not. There's nothing like super special about it. It's just that it has like high yield. So it's kind of nice to have just to have some red tomatoes in your salad or something. But I definitely prefer like the yellow and the orange cherry tomatoes. I'm not into like the cherry plums. I don't really like those. But the other one that I do grow that's a little bit bigger than a cherry tomato is the sunrise bumblebee. And I just like the size of it. It's just a little bit bigger. It's got a little bit of color, and I like the taste of it. And I also love dehydrating it. So that's
What's the
another.
coloring on that one? I remember, I think
So
we
it's like
grew
a
it.
yellowy orange striping, and
Okay.
it's just a tad bigger than a cherry tomato, but it's nice for dehydrating. I like that.
Oh,
So
speaking of dehydrating. Oh, yes. Precipes Borgies. Oh, I
mm,
remember the first time. I'm probably butchering that. Please forgive me. Um, I remember the first time growing it. I went out to the greenhouse and there's all these tomatoes. And you order all these tomatoes when you're starting out, and then you can't remember what they're supposed to be for. So I went out and they looked like they were almost a cherry tomato, like a salad tomato kind of. And I picked it and I put it in my mouth and I was like, ugh. My reaction was just like, why did I grow this? And so then I'm like, oh, well, I'll dehydrate it because I was dehydrating a lot of small tomatoes and stuff like that back then. And it was the most fantastic dehydrated tomato. But, it has such a nice, strong tomatoey flavor when you dehydrate it. And then we would add it back to sauce to kind of thicken up the homemade sauce. And I would put that in like lasagnas and bring it to church and stuff, and everybody would just rave about the sauce. So yeah, that one was a really nice one. I haven't grown it lately, but we just started doing a little bit more dehydrating. There for a few years, our solar just wasn't large enough to do a lot of dehydrating. So it is what it is. But now it's getting better around here. So what kind of paste tomatoes do you grow?
um, I don't have a lot of paste tomatoes. I just have like the San Marzano, which is more of a, I guess it's like aroma, but I don't make a lot of paste. But that's kind of the only one that I have that I grow at this point. I find for me, like anything like paste or plum, like I just get is it bottom end rot? So yeah,
So that's what these are these two. Let's see here.
adaptive seeds again.
Yeah, so these are why I had to. This is what I was talking
Oh,
about the other day.
Napoli. Yeah.
Napoli paste and Baylor paste. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, we grew that
And
in the greenhouse, didn't we? The Baylor
yes,
paste.
and those two do not get the blossom end rot. Those are the only paste tomatoes so far that are like a normal Roma style paste
Okay.
tomato. Like I've grown a larger paste tomato that did okay. That was trying to think of the name. It was years and years ago. But the actual Roma style ones, these are the only two that I can grow in the greenhouse and not have the blossom and rot. So I really like those. I have to have those seeds.
Okay. Wow.
So we do save some, but just in case, you know, I want to make sure I have them.
No,
Especially
that's
since
yeah.
adaptive seeds, the shipping's a little bit more expensive, as we talked about the other day. So
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday.
yeah. Um, and then slicers. Now, I guess this is slightly different for you and I because I'm growing in the greenhouse, so I can kind of go like longer season tomatoes and start a little bit earlier.
Hmm.
And I want indeterminate versus if you're growing outside, you probably want determinate. I mean, you can stake them and you can weave them. You can do the Florida weave, or you can do different, options with trellising them. But in the greenhouse, we just tie them up with baler twine or something like that. And we prune them so that they go up instead of sideways. So for us, I just don't grow any determinate varieties, but I don't know what it's like for you. Do you?
I grow both. I stake mine quite high outside. My greenhouse is so short that it doesn't really make a difference if I grow them in the greenhouse or outside. But um, I have a few.
So Templin Acres says they like Rutgers. Rutgers is, we have grown Rutgers. Is it? It's determinate, right? I'm pretty sure. And I believe that's like a one that makes a really nice soup as well. I'm glad it produced really well for you. And she's also said it's stored better than a beefsteak, no blossom and rot. Nice.
Oh, it is determinate.
Yeah,
I'm gonna write. I have my note paper. It's gonna
yeah.
teach me.
So for me, we grew it, but we grew it on the outside beds where it's shorter at the side of the greenhouse. And then that way we don't have to worry about stringing up or it bushing out into the path and stuff like that. So Dave said, I bought a package of cherry tomatoes at the dollar store 10 years ago. Have you been saving seed from them ever since? Be interesting to know what variety they were. I find tomatoes are so easy to save seed, and
They
they don't
are.
really have a tendency to cross. You don't have to worry too much about having them next to each other. They seem to stay pretty true. And if you're saving seed from them, like we mentioned last time, you want to save, say you're looking for an early tomato, you want to save your first nicest disease resistant, tomato from the best plant that you have, and then save your seeds from that. And if you're looking to lengthen your season, which here we don't, but in the South they might want to, you would want to pick one that's later and also disease resistant. And by doing that and saving it year after year, you can shorten the season, lengthen the season, and it's kind of neat that way.
Yeah.
Great for sun-dried tomatoes, Dave says. Interesting. Okay, so we're being asked, how do you save seed from tomatoes? Well, there's two ways. There's the by the book way, and then there's the quick way. So by the book, you're supposed to ferment them to help with disease and stuff. So you can take your seeds and squish out the pulp out of your tomato, and you can let that kind of add some water and let that kind of ferment a little bit. And then you can pour off, and your seeds will, and then just rinse your seeds off. And they say that those will last a lot better, which I started out doing when I was first saving seed. And now I have to admit, I kind of just, if I have a slice of the tomato, I just scoop out some of the seeds onto a paper towel, let them dry, and then remove them later. I haven't had any problems. Have you, Kendra?
Yeah.
And
That's
that's kind of,
exactly what I
Kendra was
do.
the one who taught me that because I was going by the book. And
I'm so not by the book. Don't listen to me. No.
and
No,
since
I've
it worked
never
for
had a
her,
problem. I've been doing it for years and I haven't had any problems with disease. And like the one 2008, like they're still like it's still germinated, it's growing from the same batch. Like they last a long time. So that's really
they
all I
do.
do too is just take some of the seeds out of the tomato, put it on a paper towel or a paper plate, and put it somewhere where it's going to dry up. And then I just scrape off the seeds and plant them. I've never had an issue. So,
Yeah, I haven't had an issue either with disease or, I mean, I'm taking them from a good tomato,
yeah.
and I'm letting them dry out completely because you might get mold otherwise, right? Because of the moisture in the paper towel and stuff. But I just let them, I just kind of, one thing I do though, is because it's one of those things where you can easily forget. So right away I write with some marker on the paper towel
Oh,
what they
yeah.
are. And then I just lay them around in warm places in my house, and not hot, but just, warm enough to dry them. And it's always worked for me. And you're right, they last forever. Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to think, I think it was drusba seeds. I grew them years and years and years later from save seed. So,
It's true.
yeah.
So I was just looking at through my seed collection of tomatoes and just coming across some of the early varieties that are determinate that I grow. Um, one here is 55 days determinate, and it's Galahad from High Mowing.
Yep.
Um, it's a bit smaller, but it's a nice early tomato for like the colder climates. The other one is Manitoba from M.I. Gardner. It's a
Mhm.
determinate plant as well. I'm not sure how many days this one is.
I
Doesn't say on it.
believe it's also a shorter season one.
It is a short season for sure. So they tend to kind of be the determinate tend to be more short season. Is that right?
Yes,
And
yes.
then
It's kinda
I
like
have
potatoes. Yeah,
um, Beaver Lodge, where it is. There's, and that's from Hawthorne Farm,
I love
and
them.
it's yeah, I love this company, and it's right in Ontario. If you're in Ontario, you're supporting real local. So this is another really good one, and I have a couple other ones, but I can't quite find them right now. Silet's actually, it's not. It's one I started growing because it is such a short season tomato, and it's from Tomato Fest. There we go. Don't know if I'm saying it right, but I believe it's also determinate. And I want to say this one might be around 50 or even less days. The problem is with this, I got it and I thought it was going to be like a little slicer, but it's probably only like this big. So,
And what was the
but
name of it? Sorry, you broke out a little
um,
bit.
I think it's called Silet's.
Oh, okay.
So I think, anyways. So it's a really small red tomato, but I could even be 47 days. Like it's really early. So it's one
There
of the
was
first tomatoes that pop up in the garden.
Yeah, I wanna say there was one that was like a 42 or something, but yeah, kinda the
There is
earlier
a
you go, the
42.
smaller they tend to be. There was one which is the one you grew that was kinda like a beefsteak, and it was a
Oh,
short season?
Moscovich.
Ah,
I have it here. I was trying to look for it, but um, well, there's the sunrise bumblebee I was talking about earlier. It is from Hawthorne Farms as well.
nice.
But yeah, Moscovich is probably my favorite earliest variety to grow. It's like you said, it's kind of beefsteak. It's one of the larger ones for a shorter amount of days. I'm just trying to remember where I got the seed from because I save my seeds in little packages, but I don't write where I
Mhm.
got them from.
I've seen it. Um, I'm trying to think of where I've seen it.
It's pretty common. It is a very common tomato, but it's a nice if you want like a regular sized tomato that's short season, that's probably a good choice for you.
Let me just see what comes up
Oh, here
here.
it is. So Moshkovish is 60 days. It's an heirloom and
Yeah,
it's a semi-determinate.
quite a few places seem to, sell it.
So high mowing seeds actually have it. So it's right there.
Nice.
And anyway, it is a nice one. But that's about it for kind of my determinants that I grow.
Hey, welcome. Thanks for
Hi.
coming in, joining us. We're talking tomatoes right now. Do you have a favorite tomato that you want to mention in the comments? Let us know.
I will tell you, if I could, want me to share some of my favorites. I can share a
Yes.
couple of my favorite. I don't know if I've got a lot of them here, but probably I have two favorites that I don't know if I can choose from. So we already covered the cherry tomatoes. That's kind of like the sun gold, the sun sun sugar. Those would be my top cherries. But I love the black from Tula. It I love the color of it when it comes up. It always finishes really well. It's a nice, decent sized tomato, and I love the flavor of it. And then my next one, I've been growing it for the last few years, but I didn't grow it last year because I ran out of seed and I can't find it locally. And I couldn't find it, surprisingly, I couldn't find it on like Rare Seeds or anything like that. But it's chocolate stripe beefsteak, and it's like a huge tomato, and it's so beautiful. It's like green, like a green with like a dark mahogany red stripes, and it is so good. And then when you cut on the inside, it's got like I should try and bring it up, but it's got like this, I don't know. It has very few seeds in it, which I
Yeah.
also like, but the color on the inside is kind of purpley reddish. It's a wonderful
What did you say
tomato
the
that I
name was again?
so it's a chocolate stripe
Chocolate stripe.
beefsteak.
Where did you get it from? Do you remember?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. So I
Okay.
can't find it from any of my usual places I buy from. So I don't know if I got it at like a seed swap or something, but I grew it. I actually have it. I can see if I can find a picture. It's on one of my videos, and I don't have any seed left, so I don't know what I did. See, so what happened was, I think it was 2 years ago. I know that you know all about this. We had pantry moss go through our house.
Oh,
And it went surprisingly, it went through all of our seed containers, and I had to throw so much out. And I have a feeling that that was one of
it
them
was
because I
one of
have
them.
no seeds left for them. Anyway, so
Oh, that's so sad. We'll have to
I
find it
know
again.
I was looking and looking and looking. I'm like, why don't I have any more of these seeds? And that's all I can chalk it down to, is that the pantry moss
But
got through it.
I was gonna say that is the one thing with the paper towel thing. I had a few that I had saved and folded up where and yeah, the moths got in and ate them.
So I
Those
don't
moths.
think it's so much the paper towel, because I'm pretty sure that the issue started with a bag of rice.
Oh, yeah, for sure it comes in on the grains, any grains. Wheat, I remember even
Yeah.
as a kid when my mom would get her wheat to grind for bread, the moths come in on it. That's why you kinda gotta freeze it first or, you can
Yes.
also do it where you take the oxygen out so that the eggs and stuff die, but they just spread to everything. They go to
Yeah.
your
So
clothes, they go to everything in the cupboard, and unfortunately, they go to seeds as well. They
yeah,
they don't discriminate.
they went to
Yes.
my seeds. But
So, I'm gonna hope I'm not butchering your name. Tamaya Lewis is asking, "How long do tomato seeds last and how to preserve for future planting?" So, we briefly discussed there's 2 methods, but we'll just recap. So you can do where you ferment them. So you can take the seeds, squish them out, and you can add some water and you can let them sit a little bit till they ferment a bit. And then you can pour that off and wash your seeds. Or what Kendra and I do now is we just take a paper towel and squish the seeds in a thin layer, like so that they're individual on the paper towel. And then we just let it dry in a warm place and then write the name on it and put them away for later. So that's what we've
yeah,
been doing for years now, and it seems to work just fine for
it
us.
does work. Yeah. And it's
Oh,
simple.
says I got her name right. Good. I'm not very good at that. So fantastic. Well, thank you for joining. So we have grown quite a few tomatoes over the years. And I would say that my favorites, I started out with, oh boy, I probably started out with whatever great grandpa was growing. Like I shared the other day, my journey was just kind of, piggybacking off of all his experience. And he probably grew things like Better Boy and all the, early girl and that kind of stuff. Um, but then as I started to get into heirloom seeds and stuff, um, William Dam had Mortgage Lifter, which is an heirloom. And I'm pretty sure that's where I got it from. We grew it and I absolutely loved the taste of it, but growing it in the greenhouse, it's indeterminate to the best of my knowledge. And growing it in the greenhouse, we had problems with, uneven watering and various things. I don't know. The greenhouse kind of stresses some plants out. So it can be calcium, although we've added plenty of calcium to our beds. So we've just learned varieties that work. And so those are the ones I'm going to mention. So Mortgage Lifter tasted really fantastic. We actually had somebody from a local pizza place that was buying them for sauce, and they were loving them. But we kind of went away from growing it. So it is a heavy, it produces lots. It's wonderful, but, So then we went to Drewsba, and that was from Hawthorne Farms. And I tell you, if I have to buy a Drewsba seed, I want to buy it from Hawthorne Farms because I've looked at different pictures of other Drewsbas, and the ones I got from them, the seeds were so perfect. Like I remember that year, I grew so many tomatoes in the greenhouse, and when Drew's became ripe, because it is a little bit later than some of the other varieties I had grown, and when I went over and I picked my first Drewsba, I literally went skipping happily out of the greenhouse because it was the most perfect looking tomato that I had been able to grow in the greenhouse. They're just nice and round, and they're like an orangey red, so they're your typical acidic kind of tomato for sauces and stuff like that. And it was just fantastic. But she advised me to get that one. I think I was looking at something else, and she's like, you know what? You should try Drewsba. And that's why I love Hawthorne Farms, because you can talk to them and interact with them. Not only are they local, but they really care. They take the time, and they can advise you what you like. Like I had no idea, and yet she knew exactly what I would like, and she was right. So yeah, Drewsba was a big one. It means friendship, and we definitely have had a long friendship with that tomato. Another one we really liked was Eva Purple Ball. And so that is more of a pinky red, so a little bit on the less acidic side. And basically with tomatoes, the orangey reds are more acidic, the pinky reds are less acidic, and then you have the orange and yellows. They're kind of like, they're sweet and acidic. So they don't seem very acidic, but they have it there, but it's just hidden with all this wonderful sugary sweetness. So I've really come to love the yellow and orange varieties.
I know one of my favorites that you grew, I think it was Dr. Welch's. I don't know if I'm
I'm
saying it.
never
Is
going to
like
pronounce this right, but
it's probably like the best
let me see if
tomato
I
that
can
I've ever
find.
had. But I
Let me see
can't really
if I can
grow it.
find
I
it.
grew it once really well in the greenhouse for like one good year, but not every year it finishes for me.
So that is the one thing, it kind of needs a greenhouse. But so the first, I think it was I got it from Larissa, and the first yellowy orange one I think I ever grew was supposed to be a Kellogg. But looking back, it was an early tomato, and it had a little bit more striping of like a red inside. So I'm almost wondering, but it was one that this person that gave it to Larissa had grown it for years. And I'm wondering if it was like almost
Oh,
their own cross of it, but it
probably.
was early. It was delicious. It was beautiful on the inside. And yeah, I think like eventually I didn't save seed after one year, and used up all my seeds. But so I've been trying to find that since. And so I grew Kellogg, and it's very late, so it's okay in the
Yeah.
greenhouse for us, but it tends
I
to be on the
can't
later
grow
side.
I can't grow the
So
Kellogg here.
when I found this one, oh, I'm always holding in the wrong spot. And this was from Greta's. We talked about Greta's the other day. So I don't know how you want to pronounce that. I know I pronounce it wrong all the time on videos, but it is a fantastic alternative to Kellogg. Nice, huge tomato, really, really nice, but indeterminate. So you do have to stake it and like grow it up something. But yeah, I think that's probably my favorite yellow one.
It's so sweet. I love that it just hangs over the side of your sandwich. It's so big. It's a nice tomato, but depending on what year it is, like how the year is, how hot it is, how long of a summer we have, I can grow it, but you never know that when you're starting your seeds in the first of the year.
So this was the other one I was talking about, Eva Purple Ball. We actually named our dog after this tomato.
It's a nice tomato too.
Eva.
Yeah.
Yep. And then another one that I liked a lot was Rose de Bern. Let's see if I can get that right. And that was another one that I got from Greta. It's a nice pink one and a nice shape. You know, it's another one that has a good shape to it. The Eva
Nice.
Purple Balls does too as well. I forgot to mention when I was talking about paste tomatoes. Oh boy, there we go. Siberian Orange was another one that I got from Adaptive Seeds. And the reason I bought these seeds again was because, as you know, like the greenhouse, we had that big storm in the greenhouse, it blew down and stuff. But sorry, I lost my train of thought. But this one came back voluntarily and did really well without being, you know, we didn't have cover over it. We didn't have, you know, last year it just kind of came back and it produced nicely all on its own, no disease, no blossom end rot, nothing. When some of the other ones were cracking because of all the not having the protection of the greenhouse. And so, yeah, so I thought I would try that one again on purpose and see how it does. It might end up in my top 3 for paste tomatoes. So Caroline's asking, what about freezing? So I'm guessing
like freezing tomatoes, or
maybe.
are the plants freezing?
If you could specify, if you're still there, Caroline.
I know we were talking about saving seeds at that point, so I don't know what she's referring to.
Oh, maybe she's asking if you can freeze tomato seeds.
Ah,
I've
I've
never
never done
frozen
that.
my seeds. No. Although I do
See,
know. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so I tend to not freeze my seeds to preserve them. Unless it's something that is out in nature, like some things like cold stratification. So then that wouldn't worry me too much to freeze those seeds. But something like a tomato that kind of is more tropically, I haven't done it. I couldn't say for sure, but I would think that just leaving them dry they've lasted for years and years that way.
yeah, I've never tried freezing them.
Okay, so Tamaya's saying, which one is the sweetest in your opinion? I don't like acid tomato sauce. So if you're canning it, you still do have to add a little bit of citric acid or lemon juice if they're sweeter tomatoes, or that's what they suggest anyway. But if you're looking for sweeter and not acidic, then you're going to want to go with like the pinky or the purpley tomatoes. So like the Eva Purple Ball is one that's a pink one. The Rose de Bern is a pink one. Do you have a pink one that you like at all? I'm trying
I
to think of
haven't been
other
able to
ones.
grow a lot of pink. I've tried the pink. What is it? Is it Cherokee pink or
Cherokee, maybe?
Cherokee maybe, or that's Cherokee purple. I've tried the pink Brandywine, but I can't seem to get it to fit here either. So
Brandywine's a long season, and you know, Patricia, that was the one that she grew year after year and picked the earliest, and she actually shortened the season. I'm pretty sure it was that one. So
wow,
just, you know, maybe see if she has some seeds for you.
get it to finish. That would be one thing, but yeah, she might.
She might. Yeah.
So
They
the
didn't have a
purple,
greenhouse till recently, so
would the black from Tula, that would be considered a purple, or
so that the black ones you're entering like a smoky flavor. But I
that's
don't
probably
know if
why
it would
I
be
love them.
pinky. Yeah, they are nice.
I love the
But
black
they tend
tomatoes.
to be longer season. Am I wrong?
I have 3 different, well, a few different that I
You know,
can
with the
grow
cherry
right outside.
tomatoes. Okay, I know with the cherry tomato that I tried, Indigo Rose, I think it was. It took a really long time to ripen. I mean, they still
So
finished, but
the black from Tula I grow outside, and then I've got the is it Black Prince? Maybe Black Prince, maybe. That it grows out like pretty much all my purple ones I can grow outside. It's the San Marzano I try and grow in the greenhouse. The Principes, the one that you had mentioned, I try and grow that in the
yeah,
greenhouse. And any other large tomato I try to grow. But I don't have a lot of, like, I can probably fit 9 tomatoes in my greenhouse.
maybe you should share like your greenhouse because because it's kind of like a starter out size greenhouse.
I don't
Anybody
even know
can.
what size it is.
It could almost
um,
be like you could convert a car shelter kind of
yeah,
greenhouse. You know,
it's not something I can
a
grow
little
in
bit
all
bigger than
year.
that.
Um, it's just, yeah, something that we used. We started up with Pam actually gave us like fence posts that we had shaped into a greenhouse. Another friend of ours gave us a window, so we put that in, and then we had got some greenhouse plastic and some wiggle wire, and we managed to build a little greenhouse. But I think I'm like 5'1", 5'2", maybe, and it's just a little bit above my head, and just because of the way that it's shaped, I don't have a lot of room on the sides, so I can only get 3 rows, like one right in the middle and then 2 on the sides. I want to say I can get about 9 if I'm pushing it, I could probably squeeze 12 in there, but it gets really crowded because they're all indeterminate and they kind of grow
Mhm.
crazy. But
So Dave says Kendra needs a new greenhouse. It's on
yes,
the
he
list, Dave.
knows. So it's collapsed a couple times and it's not looking too good. I didn't even grow in it last year because it just needs to be fixed. But my biggest thing, Dave knows because he follows our channel quite a bit, is, and I'm sure you know this too, is getting out to the greenhouse to clean it off is the hardest thing to do, and getting the motivation to go out and actually do it. I don't have it a lot. So the thing is not only are you like using so much effort to like pull the snow off, you're standing in like almost waist deep snow. So getting there is a challenge. So one thing that I realized is I put it in like the sunniest part of our property where there's no trees really around. So I thought this is going to be a really great spot to put our greenhouse because it's all sun. Um, all the time. But the only problem is it's probably the furthest away from our house. So
Yeah.
if I could redo it, I would really like to have it closer to the house, maybe even somewhere where we're like shoveling or plowing our driveways nearby so that we have a path so that I can get there often. Because I'm going to tell you, the thought of going out and doing that and having to stand in like waist deep snow is, I don't want to do it.
Well, you know all too well how big my
Yeah.
greenhouse, how high it is, and how hard it is to shovel all that off. So
Yeah.
I feel your pain. I remember being out there till dark sometimes because ours is about 80 feet long
Yeah.
by about 21, no, maybe 24 feet wide. Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, somewhere in the, between 20 and 24 feet, maybe.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of snow.
It's a big
And
one.
sometimes we get a big dumping of snow, and you got to go out there and shovel it off and shovel it off and shovel it off. And like you said, I remember falling back once because, like, you're so high on the greenhouse shoveling
You
off,
are.
the
Oh,
bank
yeah.
gets so high on the sides. And so I remember falling backwards and just
I
tumbling
remember
down.
going over there and helping you at one point, and you're right, like, so she has this, like, huge greenhouse, but all the snow, like, the sun does have if you have, like a regular, like, like 10 centimeter snowfall, it's not so bad. Eventually it kind of melts off and falls off. But when you get those like 30 centimeters at a time and they're just dumping on top, and then you get a freeze and then it's dumping more snow, it's a lot to take off. So I remember we were over at your place one time and we're like standing up on this big bank almost to the top of the greenhouse. And it's like, you don't really know until you have to experience it for yourself, but it's a challenge. But if I could do it over again, and I think maybe you would agree, I would choose to have a greenhouse with a peak like that
So my
instead of
dad's
the
was
round.
perfect. Do you remember how my dad's was? It's more of a Gothic shape.
Yeah.
And if I could afford it, I would have bought another one. Like I would have bought one like his when that storm came and destroyed ours.
Mm-hmm.
Our shape was okay, but it was more squat. Oh, I'm not very good with my
So
shapes here.
that's what mine is, just like that.
Yeah, so it's more squat. So my dad's with the Gothic shape, a lot of the snow would come off pretty naturally, or you could go inside with, say, a broom or something and bang it, and it would come down. And even with ours in the beginning of the season, it sheds snow, like you said, it sheds snow kind of naturally for a bit, but after a while, the sides build up and build up and build up, and then it can only shed so much, and then you're up there shoveling it off. So
Yeah.
So we have a comment here. I heard snow helps insulate temperature or heat loss from the roof, and at least so it does. It does insulate, but the problem is it's also excluding sun. So the snow at the sides definitely probably helps, as it builds up on the sides.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to get it off the top, or it becomes very cold and dark in the greenhouse. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things. So Tamaya's saying, maybe I need to make a greenhouse so it's taller. She was saying, I'm making a greenhouse cover directly over my raised beds. Hope it works. You know what? It does. I have a video on that actually where, well, we kind of call it a cold frame, but we've put a cold frame over top of a raised bed, and you can plant in it earlier and you can go longer and later in the season. Basically, every layer you add is helping. So recently in our greenhouse in the last couple of years, we used to heat all the time, thinking if we were going early that we had to heat. But in the last few years, like I have in my garden journal handy, that we transplanted our peppers out April 7th. And here our last frost date's like June 1st. And so it was like a test, and then I just took Dollarama frost blanket, which is really, really thin. So I layered it like 4 layers and I put it over the raised bed in the greenhouse. So having the greenhouse is one layer. And then I put some plastic over the raised bed just with some hoops. And inside that, I had this frost blanket. And they did fine. And they produced nice and early for us because of it. So every layer helps. Anything you can do to layer up is going to help. We actually made a greenhouse previous to the one that Kendra, we made one kind of like that. And we put it over top of raised beds. And you can just use fence, like the top rail posts from fencing. And we actually use 2 trees and we just kind of bend it. And then we put the next one in so that we're following the same bend. And, that's how we did it. But, and then put plastic over it. And then I could grow my winter greens in my raised beds. And it was really nice. And I put it close to the house, like you said. So it was close to the driveway, close to the house. And it's a movable one that I can move off the raised bed. So, yeah. Oh, Tamaya
Nice.
says she's in zone 4B. So that's similar to us.
Similar. It's similar. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish I had done a video on that experience, but I'm going to try again this year, putting them out early and seeing how they do. But I do have a video on putting them out. I think it was April 27th or somewhere. It was later on in April, but it was still April, and I did the same thing, and they did pretty well. So
nice.
Yeah. Just wanted to make sure I got all the comments. So I just want to say hi to the Stanley family. Thanks for
Hi.
joining us. If you have any favorite, we're on tomatoes. So if you have any favorite tomato seeds, let us know. I'm trying to think. Amish paste is another pretty good one. And then there's a bunch of varieties and then I didn't want to forget this one. I put it aside so I would remember. So between the Amana orange and can't even think straight right now, but the other one, Dr. Whiteches? I don't know.
Wedges.
It looks like witches.
Something like that.
Those are probably my two favorite yellowy orange varieties. Sweet, yet still acidic, very yummy. So I like those. All right. There are so many. I have way too many tomato seeds over the years. Like this is why I have a seed addiction, right? It's just too many. But some of them I've kind of left off and some of them will keep growing. But yeah.
I did find this this might be another choice. It's another determinate one I found, the subarctic.
Yes.
But I think it's a smaller tomato as well. But it's a 50-day tomato for those in colder climates.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I remember our first year we moved here. We moved from a zone 5B, I think it was, where there was like our neighbor had peach trees and the other neighbor had pears, and we planted a pear and a peach so that we could have fruit. And we grew everything outside. We didn't think about a greenhouse. And then we moved up here and I put all my tomatoes out the way I normally would in the city. And it was like, well, I wasn't being careful with day length and stuff like that either because I was just beginning. But I literally, we heard we were going to get frost, and I was out there picking green tomatoes and bringing them inside. And a friend of ours told me how I could wrap them in newspaper and just let them ripen. And that's what I had to do. And that's the year that we said, okay, we need a greenhouse if we're living here because this is, wow, we didn't realize where we moved to. It was just like a realization. But some years I would say, like, we're supposed to be listed a 4B, I think. And some years I would agree with that. And some years I would say we're like a 4A, maybe. I know that when I buy fruit trees and stuff, I try to stick now to like a 3B just to be safe, maybe a 4A. But we've tried peaches outside that are supposed to be for zone 4, and they did not work. So, but in the greenhouse, they do fine. So, so that's kind of why we ended up with such a large greenhouse. We bought a used greenhouse and we just took it down and put plastic on it. And then, so the size was already determined for us, and it is quite large. So it's a benefit, it's a blessing, as well as, a lot of work, but it is nice to have.
It would be.
But because it's taller, you don't end up with the heat stress. That is the one thing that the short greenhouses. So if you can go taller, if you're building one and you can have a better point and you can have it a little bit taller, it really is worth getting that heat away from the plants and the stress and get that snow off. So anybody who's building one, that's something to keep in mind.
Another type of tomato that I really like is the heart shaped tomatoes. Yeah, I really like them, and I don't have a favorite, but if anyone could recommend them, I've just been growing old seed that I've had around. But if you have any recommendations for the heart or the Oxford heart or something, I'd be open to suggestions.
That was the other paste tomato I was talking about that I had grown years and years ago. It was in the shape almost like an ox heart, but I cannot remember the name of it. So if I end up remembering, I'll let you know. But I can't really grow the ox hearts in the greenhouse. I find that they have the similar issues with being stressed. So I don't know. I can't give you a good one, but maybe somebody in the comments has had good results with them.
I grew them a few years back outside and they did okay, but I just have some old seed here and I don't have a name for them, so it's not really helpful. That's the
So,
thing. So when you're saving your seeds,
yeah,
always write down what they are. You think you're gonna remember and no,
it's so true. Even that's why the
labeling.
garden diary is so important,
Yeah,
because from one year to the next, you can't remember when you planted something or
yeah,
how it did. It's just so handy to keep a journal. Anybody starting out, I suggest keeping a journal right from the beginning. You're going to learn so much because
yeah,
online there's a lot of rules. I shouldn't compare it to canning. That's bad. No, these rules you can break and you're okay. But there's a lot of rules out there, for saving seeds and various things. And I found that it's kind of like beekeeping. There's a lot of ways that you can do things that'll work, even though it's not the tried and true way. I remember my dad transplanting his tomato plants into almost like these weren't seedlings, but he put a lot of compost in with his plants. And I remember saying to him, "Oh, you're going to burn the plants. Like they can't handle all that compost." He was putting it in pots before he put them out. Those plants did beautifully. No, don't get me wrong, it was well decomposed compost,
mhm,
but they did fantastic. And so that's what started me starting to add compost when I would transplant them, or adding worm castings is a great way to help them. If you're having a plant that's got to be a little bit longer in a pot, putting worm castings can really help it. Um, but like there's all these rules, and you really just have to find out for yourself,
yeah.
because I would have never thought that I could go without heat, and be able to put tomatoes and peppers out in the greenhouse with it being, snow on the ground and all this stuff. So you got to
Mm.
try things for yourself.
And one year's might be different from the next too. So just realizing that.
Dave says I'm a rebel seed saver. I think it's Kendra. I was following
No.
after Kendra. I was following all the rules at that point, and she was like, "No, no, this is how I do it." So I was following her, but okay, I'm gonna move on to potatoes, if you don't mind, unless you have another tomato variety
No.
that you
No,
wanted to go
potatoes
over.
sound good.
All right, so potatoes. So said we would talk about indeterminate versus determinate. We kind of, set the stage with the tomatoes, because determinant is, oh, I guess we didn't really describe it though. So determinate is they're going to all pretty much ripen at the same time. They're going to be bushy. They're not going to continue to grow up and produce like more and more blossoms and stuff like that. It's kind of better if you want a canning tomato, like if you want to make a mass of sauce at once, or if you want to can a large amount of something at once, determinant's really nice because they're all kind of finishing off at the same time. If you want tomatoes that are going to, you want slicers for your family, then an indeterminate is going to give you some here and some there and throughout the season. And they're going to continue to grow and grow and grow until frost like kills them, which thankfully in the greenhouse, unless they're touching the walls of the greenhouse, they just keep going. So it gives us a whole extra month at least at the end of the
Wow.
season. We don't, we're just beginning to get the extra at the beginning, but we definitely have for years had the extra at the end. They just do wonderfully through the frost without heat. So that's indeterminate versus determinate in tomatoes. In potatoes, it's kind of a little bit similar. So they tend to be later season. So the earlier ones tend to be your determinate potatoes. And unlike tomatoes, it's not such a huge variable. Your indeterminate potatoes, like German butterball, it's a later season. It's going to continue to set fruit and grow a little bit bigger, not on the same extent as a tomato. And that's where, our grandparents, the constant hilling up and hilling up and hilling up and hilling up. I just don't do that anymore, because here in Canada and in the northern climate, most of our varieties that we grow are determinate. So we plant deep. It works for us. We plant deep and then we hill up maybe once. I'm really bad at getting out there and hilling up potatoes. So sometimes I don't hill up at all and they still do okay. You probably get a little bit better yields even on a determinate if you at least hill up once. just so that they're not right below the surface and stuff. But yeah, we plant deep and then we just hill up once. And there is actually a website, and I was trying to find, there's a few websites that say which varieties are which. On my list of ones that I've grown and grow, German butterball is indeterminate. Fianna is indeterminate. I don't think I really grow any others that are. Oh, there was a blue one I grew, blue or purple one. I can't think of what it was called. All blue, maybe. But I stopped growing it because they just don't get big enough in time here. So I just tend to stick to the determinate varieties. So my favorites to grow for potatoes, determinate varieties are red chieftains. They store well. They do tend to get a little more scabby than the Norlands. Norlands have a little bit better resistance to the scab, but then the Norlands don't store as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would suggest is as you're looking for potato varieties, ask yourself, do I have like a root cellar, or do I have a place I'm going to store them and have a plan for them? Or am I going to can them, dehydrate them, freeze them, eat them fresh, And then, if you're not worried about storage, then you can worry more about disease resistance or the flavor or, things like that. Whereas if you're concerned for storage, then, that's why I do the chieftains over the Norlands. But I think you grow Norland, right?
Yeah, dark red Norland. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, they're nice. So
They grow
yeah.
well, like they're huge. And I love the fact that they don't scab very easily, like you said. Like the white potatoes or the russets, they scab a lot, the ones that we do grow. So that's why I kind of have stuck with the Norlands. But like you said, you got to figure out if you want them for long-term use, right?
Yeah, I didn't want to put, this is kind of back into the tomatoes, but I want to make sure that this is seen. So November 20th. That's pretty impressive.
That is impressive.
All right. And so I'm just reading this comment. I failed horribly trying tomato potatoes one year, maybe because of the variety. Do you have one of the good ones for newbies? So I'm going to try to cover that. Hopefully, I've grown a lot of potatoes. So I kind of stay away from the blue varieties now, especially if it's an indeterminate one. I found that they were just too small. Maybe somebody else has had better success. Maybe it's just my soil, but the red chieftains did well. They produced lots. I'm sure the Norlands probably did too.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing is usage of your potato. So the reds are really good for potato salads and roasted potatoes and, kind of stuff like that. Like, what else would you say that you use them a lot for?
Could do
They're not really
mash.
a mashed potato or anything.
I
Or
like
do
the mash
you
with
mash them? Okay.
even with the skin on. They're really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the white potatoes are kind of like your all-purpose potatoes. They kind of go all across the board. You can bake them, you can boil them, you can, fry them. You can pretty much do whatever you want with white potatoes. And recently I haven't tried this one myself, but I really want to get seed for it. And so far it looks like it's just available in the States. So I don't even know if I'm going to succeed, but Elba is supposed to be like a number one potato, supposed to be for growing in containers as well as growing in the ground. Excellent storage. One of the most blight resistant, scab resistant, good for wet and dry. And then it's a slightly waxy. So like most white potatoes, it's good for across the board and makes apparently fantastic mashed potatoes as well. So
Oh, wow.
I would like to get my hands on some Elba seed. Those who are in the States, that's not so hard. There's, let me just see who grows them. It is Wood Prairie Farm. Let me just see. I can put the link. There's another place in Maine as well. Let's put that up. So yeah, so Wood Prairie Farm has the Elba, as well as they're pretty much like, remember we talked about Tomato Fest and how they have like pretty much anything you could want.
Yeah.
That's kind of how this place seems, and I wish they were in Canada. I haven't had
Wow.
time to see if they ship to Canada. I'm hoping they do. I don't know how that all works with, regulations and stuff, but yeah, it was, they have like everything. And then another one that is really that we can get here in Canada is Carib, and it is really, really good. It's early, like super early. Like I think they said 65 days. So it's like
Hmm.
extremely early. And
That
they were
is
actually
early.
saying that when they were having problems with the Colorado potato beetles, that they told everyone to grow those because they literally would form up so fast, potatoes, and so large quickly that even by the time the potato beetle had killed the plant, they still had potatoes already. So I was like, wow, that's
So how do
that's
you say that? Sorry? Crib?
um, yeah, so it's spelled, let me see if I have it somewhere, but it's spelled C-A, well, I'll just write it here. I'll post it, Carib. All right,
Okay.
that up. Yeah. So I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it right, but
Is that a white potato or?
so it is like they call it purple skinned. It's white on the inside. So it's kind
Ah,
of like your Chieftain's Norlands kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's got the skin color, but then on the inside it's
it's
like a
white.
white and it behaves like a white potato. Um, but I call the skin magenta. Like it's a really pretty color. And they were prolific for us. They were large.
Okay.
They grew really, really well. So I really like that one.
Hmm.
And then another one that I really liked was, let me see if I can find where I bought them. Well, I guess I'll just put up the variety name and then later
Hmm.
I'll say where we bought them. But Siegland, and I really like them. But the only thing about them, they produce great. Like we put them in a place where we tend to put our potatoes in multiple places in case it's a bad year. Like say it's a wet year, or a dry year. If you put them in different types of soil, then you're not putting all your eggs in one basket because potatoes like a lot of water. They like a lot of water. They don't like to be sitting in water. So I put Onaway, I believe it was, and Siegland, and the Siegland did far better. Like everywhere I planted it, they just did well everywhere I plant them, and they can be really large. Like you can get some pretty decent ones, and then you'll
Hmm.
get some smaller ones, but they produce a lot. But they're a waxy potato, so it's not like an all-purpose potato. It's good for boiling. They would be good for canning because they hold their
Okay.
shape. Good for soup. If you're going to roast them, I suggest boiling them first because they're a little bit dry to just roast. So they don't make great fries or anything like that, but they're, yeah, really good for soup, good for canning, good for that kind of stuff, and kind of like a waxy potato. And then I'm trying to think if they're, oh, Irish cobbler I like. So Matt gave me my first Irish cobbler potato, or introduced me to it. And they're kind of like a funny sometimes they're a funny shape, kind of like knobby-ish, but they have a really nice flavor. Like German butterball has a really nice flavor, but it's a long season and it doesn't size up well for me. But Irish cobbler does size up well and it has a nice flavor. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's mealy, so they're perfect for mashed potatoes and they're really reliable. So I would probably say those are my favorites of the ones that we've grown. Fiana, being an indeterminate, if you're wanting to grow an indeterminate variety, their storage is really good. That was the one thing about them. They may not have like the hugest yield where we live because they're indeterminate and they take a little longer, but they store for like a year, year and a half sometimes.
Wow.
It's like the guy I bought them off told me a year and a half for him. He said he was actually worried about because he sells organic seed potatoes, and he was like, when he grew that variety, he was actually worried that he wouldn't be able to get them to like have enough shoot to grow and stuff. So yeah, they're kind of nice for that, if you want a storage potato. But this year I'm going to try to get, if I can get that company in the States to send to me, I'm going to try to get King Harry, Huckleberry, and Sharpo Myra, maybe. Those are like ones that I want to try. And King Henry, because it resists Colorado beetles, it resists leaf hoppers and flea beetles, as well as being like a really nice potato on top of that. So, and then the Huckleberry Gold, it's like 85 to 95 days, so it's not too bad, but it's really prolific and disease resistant. And I always have trouble with scab because my soil is so rich. So it's supposed to be good for that, because I grow the chieftains, but they do tend to have a little bit of trouble with that. So,
okay.
So yeah, so I was going to just mention, for those who want to know any local ones or organic potato suppliers, we have, let me see here.
I know there was a question there about the difference between organic potatoes and regular.
All right. Thank you for paying attention. I wasn't paying attention to the comments. So, what is the difference between organic potato and just regular potatoes? So you're going to grow your own organically. So technically, we had this conversation the other day. With seeds, for the most part, I don't worry too much if they're grown organically. When it comes to potato, it's a little bit different. Because the tuber, so the reason I grow my own potatoes, potatoes are cheap to buy right now, and you can get them, and they're abundant. Two reasons I grow my own is varieties. You can't get the varieties that you at the grocery store. But the second reason is because they spray potatoes to finish them. I actually had a conversation. I've actually done a video on it where I talked to a potato farmer. And he basically told me that most potato companies, if not all except the ones that say they're organic, spray them to finish them. So what that means is you don't dig up your potatoes to store them. You can have fresh potatoes any time of the year, but, well, not during the winter, but any time of the growing season. But to store them, you have to wait till the plants die, and then you dig them up and you cure them, and then they store. Otherwise, they have thin skins and they're kind of like new potatoes. So in the potato big farm business, they want to be able to stagger their season accordingly. And so instead of storing a bunch of potatoes and selling them, so they will start earlier and they will spray their potatoes, kill the plants, and then they can come back and harvest them and sell them. So this can cause health problems. And they say it doesn't go into the tuber, but I believe that if the tuber is being fed by the leaves every other nutrient, and that it's getting the chemicals as well. And I personally know somebody who cannot eat potatoes unless they're organically grown. She gets very sick. So
wow.
Yeah. So if you're buying seed potatoes and you can't get organic, that's okay. And some places I know they don't go for the organic certification, but they do grow organically. So you can ask the grower how they grow their potatoes. So I hope that kind of answers the question. I don't know if it's just how it's grown. That's organic versus non, as well as if you're certified organic, you can't be GMO. But in Canada, to the best of my knowledge, right now, they do not sell any GMO, although we do grow them for the States, I believe, as research. So, okay, so a few places that you can buy organic seed potatoes or buy good seed potatoes in Ontario is, I think I put the one up. So I'll show it again. Ellenberger Organic Farm. They're located in Cohill, Ontario. And he's been great over the years. Really, really nice family. And he actually does his farming with horses, which is really cool. So he has quite a few seed varieties, and as well as, let me find the next one. Sorry, I'll just take me a second. So Ironwood is around Kingston area, and he will actually he sells grain, as organic grain, as well as organic seed potatoes. And he's the one who I got my seedlings from first.
Okay.
So yeah, he had, and I actually prefer his variety. I don't know what the difference was, but I think the taste of his were better. Last time I couldn't get them from him. There was some illness, and so he wasn't farming for a little bit. And so I ordered them from out west, and I find that they're not quite the same. So I might see if he has some again, just to compare the two. And then, of course, West Coast Seeds has potatoes. They also have multiplier onions, which we'll talk about in a bit. But I'll just put that link in there. Although I'm sure everybody kind of knows West Coast Seeds. And then, and I think you're affiliated with them or something, aren't you, Kendra?
Yes.
So if you're going to order something from West Coast Seeds, go through Kendra. And I mean, we don't make a lot off stuff like that, but it's every little bit counts. So in Alberta, there is Eagle Creek seed potatoes, and they're kind of like, I remember I was saying the one place in the States had like everything. They're kind of like the Canadian version. They got a lot of stuff, but I wouldn't say it's to the same extent, but they have a lot. Like if you're looking for one place to buy a bunch, you can go to seedpotatoes.ca, which is actually Eagle Creek seed potatoes. And they have Irish cobbler, they have the crib, they have Seaglint, they have Kennebec, they have Gold Rush. So they have a good variety. It's kind of like a one-stop shop place. So
nice.
Yeah. Okay, so she says, sorry, I'll just show the comment. Are there any seed suppliers in Canada that sell to the States? I'm in the States currently, but I prefer Canada's standards in regard to food and GMO. You are pretty safe if you go with, there's some great, there's great companies in the States. We just can't get stuff as readily from the States. We kind of wish we could. So Rare Seeds is awesome. Very high standards in the States. M.I. Gardner, he's a northern gardener, and he has a lot of good seeds. These places may not have potato seeds, but then, like I said, that one that was called Wood Prairie Farm, that one's in the States, and they have a huge selection of potatoes. And they also do, they also have some lives and stuff where they talk a lot about potato growing. Wealth of knowledge, and they seem like a really, really nice company. Like if you order potato seeds and they freeze on the way to getting to you or they get damaged, they will replace them, stuff like that. So really nice company. High Mowing Seeds is a great company in the States, and it's free shipping over $200. And then I'm not sure in the States how much shipping is, because here in Canada we pay a lot more to get it from High Mowing Seeds. But can you think of any other good ones in the States, Kendra?
No, because in the States, I generally just go to Rare Seeds and High Mowing and Tomato Fest.
Okay, Tomato Fest is a good one, yeah, in the States as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so M.I. Gardner, he's going to be
M.I. Gardner, I do use, yeah.
Because he's northern Michigan.
So he would be more of your zone
Climate.
in the 4. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So he would have, because things climatize. So Rare Seeds has a huge selection, but they are in, I think they're like California or something. I could be wrong, but they're definitely south. But if you're looking for selection, they have a great selection. I'm looking for acclimatized as well. So that's why MI Gardner is a really nice one to go to. I
About
hope that
Baker
helps.
Creek or William Dam.
William Dam's here in Ontario. But I
So
think
Baker,
William Dam would
I
probably
think
ship
they
to the
would ship.
States.
Yeah. I think they would.
Um, I don't know about potato seed companies. It's probably a little bit, maybe West Coast Seeds might, if they're able. Like I think that it's going to be about, crossing the border and
Yeah.
stuff. Seed potatoes would be maybe a little harder, and onions and things like that. But seeds themselves can cross the border no problem. So,
I don't know. I think, I mean, other than their shipping, I would go with the high mowing. They have a lot of variety. Um, they have like lots of potatoes and stuff too.
so high
Like,
mowing has a lot of, they're organic, first of all, and they have sorry, I got distracted by the comment. I'm trying to refocus. Anyways, they have hybrids, but they also have open pollinated varieties. So any of those would be good for you. Is William Dam the name of the website that ships? I'm pretty sure William Dam and West Coast Seeds probably ship to the States. And I don't know that I have maybe Kendra could look it up, or Jay, and put a link in there for me
William
if you
Dam.
don't mind. But yeah, so they are in Ontario, and they aren't, so High Mowing Seeds says they're all organic. William Dam does not, but they are non-GMO. So they have organic seed as well as they have non-organic seed, but they're non-GMO. And then, so I did Eagle Creek. Oh, Country Sense. If you're in Ontario and you're in Southern Ontario, they're in the Fergus area. And they have Huckleberry Gold, Gold Rush, as well as many other things, and multiplier onions. So if you can pick them up, it's cheaper. I mean, that's the only thing, is that shipping seed potatoes can be expensive because they're heavy. So I would suggest, if you have to get seed potatoes from a distance away, that you just go with maybe like 2.5 pounds or 5 pounds to begin with, and save your own. Like, just the first year, don't eat, just eat enough to try them, and then save the rest for seed. And then you won't have to order seed ever again. But yeah, when I ordered from Fergus from Country Sense, it was $48 to ship $57 worth of potatoes. So I was almost paying the same amount shipping as I was for the potatoes. And I mean, I get it, because when we had the nursery,
Yeah.
shipping's expensive in Canada anyway. And then Helmer's Organic Farm also had Seaglin and Huckleberry Gold. And I'm trying to think where they are located. I want to say Alberta or BC, maybe. I'll put a link for them as well. I'm going to try to put some of these links in so that. Oh, and there's the William Dam seeds. All right. There's the link for Helmer's Organic. So that's my list for Canada. And they are in BC. I have a note here. So Alberta, Eagle Creek is in Alberta, and the Helmer's is in BC. And then a bunch of the rest of the ones I mentioned was just Ontario. And then if you're in the States, the Wood Prairie Farm one has a huge selection. And I think I put a link for it earlier, or maybe I didn't get a link for it. I will put that up. Let me find it just specifically for our friends in the States. There we go. All right. And they have a huge selection. So if you're in the States, that'll be good. All right. I think we've probably exhausted the potato conversation.
Your
So
Alba, that did you grow Alba or you were trying to find Alba?
Elba, I'm trying to find, and the only place
Is
I could find it so far was Johnny Seeds, and then the other, like in the States, basically. So I'm really hoping to be able to get it because it sounds like it's going to be a new favorite for sure.
is it an E or an A to start with?
It's ELBA.
So High Mowing Seeds has it. Have you tried there?
No, I did not see
'Cause
it
I
there,
think
but then
that
they're in the
that is.
States still. Interesting. Well, I'll definitely look at them as well. It gives me an
Yeah.
option. Maybe shipping is better from one place to another. I'll have to look up and see if they can ship them to Canada. I really want to try that variety. Alba is supposed to be great, like beginner gardener potato that you just really can't go wrong with. So I'm hoping they're right. And I guess my next runner up would be the Carib or the Chieftains in New Orleans, like the usual ones you
Yeah.
can get from the farm stores. But the Carib definitely because it's really, really early. All right. And then onions. I think that's our last conversation of of the day. We're kind of getting long winded here, but all right. So, onions. You can grow onions from sets, you can grow onions from seed. You can also grow onions if you can find somebody local that grows starts for you. So, they would be plants. So, actually, this year, because I'm really late and I haven't sowed my onions yet, um, unfortunately, they're still here. And generally, I would try to start them in January or at least the beginning of February. So I'm kind of running late with that. So if you're starting from seed, it's something that you got to start really early. If you haven't, you might find them at a local nursery. Like we have Connaught Nursery um, that has plants that they sell. And I noticed that they have in a pot, like they'll have like 30 or 40 onions that are started for you. And you just take them and transplant them the way you would if you grew them yourself. So that's really nice. And then sets, if you're late and you're really late, you can still grow sets. So Kendra, you have a little more experience with growing the sets. I'll let you share your experience with that.
So, yeah, I don't usually start my seeds really that early to want to get all the equipment and stuff out, like the lights and everything set up for the super early thing. So I'm a bit lazy in that sense, and I just go for sets. I figure it's better than just buying them at the grocery store, growing them out myself. But for the sets, I just grab things from like PV Mart or somewhere local. Usually you can get a decent size bag for $4 or something like that. And I haven't had any issues growing them. So I just grow like a typical red onion, and I'm just going to show you what I have here. This one is
They're
already
beautiful.
starting to grow, and it's a good size. Like you can see, these are from the garden from this year, so they last. So I've been really happy with them. Um, got a couple here. I like growing the red. They're very firm, hard, like they're not soft, and they store really well. And then I've just got the regular yellow onions,
Like a cooking
good
onion.
size, and I just leave them on my counter or on the table, and I just use them throughout the winter. But when I bring them in, I usually set them on a shelf just to make sure they're completely dried out. And for me, there's so much stuff to do and to start. So I'd rather put the effort into, growing my own tomatoes and things like that. And the onions, I just don't worry about growing them. So I just make sure that they're not like GMO or anything like that. But I've had really a lot of success with the little starts. I have went and bought the little started seeds, and they grow well too. But anyways, you get a lot in a bag, and I just throw them all in, and they've been really good. The only other onion that I tend to grow is like the bunching onion. So other than the yellow onion and the red onion, I just grow I think it's the Tokyo long bunching onion, and I really like those. I've been really happy they grow really well. And the only thing that I find here is in this location is I'm not growing like a Spanish onion. I just don't. I was told years ago that it doesn't grow well in this location, so I've just never tried growing it here. So I don't know if you have experience growing a Spanish onion or not.
Well, unfortunately, I'm going to find out. So I sent my mom, I haven't been able to go to the store, and I said to my mom, I'm late. I need onion seeds. Go to the farm store and get me some onion seeds. They didn't have sets yet. And so I've got sweet Spanish and Spanish Utah. So I'm going to find out. Oh, sorry.
We are a little bit down the road from each other, so it might work out, you know?
You know what? I don't know unless I try.
Yeah.
So I also grabbed a Walla Walla, which after figuring out, I regretted it. But anyway, it's okay. You know what? I got what I could. I'm going to try them. And like I said, the varieties that I'm getting from Connaught are awesome. So Fortress is one, and apparently it stores for 7 to 8 months, and it's a cooking onion. So I kind of like
Nice.
the most of what we eat is cooking onion. And so that's kind of what I wanted. And then Kelsey, I don't think it's Kelsey, but sweet, huge, keeps into the new year. So it sounded good to me because the sweet ones don't usually store well. So if you're looking for a storage onion, that's one thing, you know. The sweet onions are more of a fresh, and then they don't store as well as the cooking onions. But one thing, when you're selecting your onion seeds, you need to know your length of days. So there is, I wish I had a link for it. I'm trying to think which website I found it on, but you can look it up as well. So your length of days. So if you know your latitude, then you'll know whether you're a long day, an indeterminate, or a short day onion you're looking for. Because if you grow the wrong kind, they're just not going to grow as good for you. So in the warmer climates, they need short day onions. And way up north where we are, we need long day onions because in the summertime we have like really long days. And so when you're looking at the package, if you can find out or Google, like I'm looking here on the package and I don't see where it says anywhere, but I Googled these varieties and they're all long day. And more than likely, if you're going to like a farm store or something, they're going to have what grows where you are more than likely. But if you're ordering online, it's something to keep in mind. So long day is if you are between the 37th and the 47th parallel and you have like say 14 to 16 days of daylight. And that generally is zone 6 or colder. And then the intermediate is the 32nd to the 42nd parallel, and it's 12 to 14 days of or hours of daylight. And then the short days are the 25th to the 35th parallel, and they're like 10 to 12 hours of daylight. And they generally, the short day ones require a mild winter, and they'll plant them because it's hotter places. They'll plant them like in the wintertime, and they don't store as well. So we want long day ones because they're going to store better and stuff like that. So, you know, that kind
I
of
just
helps.
added the website that you sent me for
Thank
the
you.
onion.
All right, I'll put it up. So if you go on Johnny Seeds and if you click the link here that we have in the comments, you should be able to come up with, it has a map and it'll show you what you are depending where you live. Now it's going to be a map of the states, but it doesn't matter because pretty much Canada's long day. So, so it'll give you an idea in the states though, which you are. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about was perennial onions. So in the past, we've grown some different varieties of perennial onions. Now, perennial onions are never going to grow large, but they're going to provide you with green onions and little bulbs, and you can cook them. I mean, you can use them like other onions. You can pickle them because they're small, but I like them because, like Kendra said, there's just so many things you got to plant, and for me, they're a nice early green onion, and they're always there. So
Yeah.
some varieties of perennial onions are Egyptian walking onions. I've had great
Mm.
success with them, and they literally, so they'll have a little bulb and then they'll grow up into a green onion, and you can use that green onion, but then they form these little bulbils, I think you call them, but
I think
anyways,
so.
at the top, and it's basically like a whole bunch of little onion plants sitting up there, and they'll actually start to shoot out green shoots at the top. And because it gets heavy, it'll fall over into the soil, and all of those will root into little onions. And so you can either break them apart and spread them out, which they'll grow a little bigger if you spread them out, probably, but they'll just keep walking around in the garden, and they don't spread far, so it's not invasive like a mint or anything. They're just going to walk a little here and then a little there and a little here and a little there, and I
So what
like
do you
them.
use them most for?
Green onion, I usually
Okay,
use them
green
to
onion.
replace green onion. I love them as that. They're I don't tend to grow green onions as much, so that's my green onion. you
Okay.
know so instead of, like, if I was doing a bunching onion or something. And then Welsh onions, I'm excited because I'm going to get some of those as well from Connaught Nursery. So um, those are zone 4 to 9, and they're a bunching onion, but they're supposed to be perennial here. So
Oh,
if I get some and
nice.
they work out, I know where you are. And then technically ramps are a perennial onion, which we grow as well. So wild leeks falls into that category. And then another one I'm excited about is potato onions. So we grew these for years. And then unfortunately, I'm not always faithful with pulling things out of the garden. Things get busy in the fall with everything. And here, unfortunately, the potato onions are not perennial. In some places in the States and other places in Canada, even probably like Southern Ontario, they're probably perennial. But for us, multiplier or potato onions are not perennial, but they are nice because it's kind of like having your little onion set, you know, um, instead of, how can I describe it? So potato onions form at the base. So you'll put in one potato onion into the ground, and then instead of forming seeds or things like that, they multiply by having other little onions. So it's like a group of onions, bulbs. And sometimes in the States, especially, you can get a good selection of where they're slightly larger. They're kind of like a shallot, except they're not a shallot. But yeah, similar idea. And so for me, it was like, okay, well, this is an onion I don't have to, plant from seed and wait for that whole process. So yeah, potato onions are kind of a neat alternative
Hmm.
to have. And then I think I think that's pretty much, oh, and chives, of course, are perennial onion that I just love. We grow them like grass if we can,
Yeah.
I put them around trees because they're really good for fruit trees. So we planted some around fruit trees, we plant them around our grapevines, we plant them in pots and they overwinter. We just, once you got chives going, you just keep spreading them and it works perfectly. So Dave says he is on the 42nd parallel. So he would be either indeterminate. Yeah, so he'd probably be the in between. Although you probably could try some long day as well. It's neat. All right. Any other thoughts, Kendra, that you want to add tonight?
Oh,
We're
I think you did well.
wrapping
I
up at
learned some stuff.
9 o'clock.
I've got some new seeds I'm gonna have to buy.
I'm looking forward to growing a few more potato varieties to try out because now I've found out some of the ones, it's a process of elimination every year, of
Yeah,
what you like and what you don't. And different people like different things. So it's kind of hard
it's
to know.
true. Well, you shared a
Well,
lot of good websites I'm gonna be checking out when we get off.
that's awesome. Yeah. I hope I went through most of them. I'm trying to think if there was any that I didn't get to sharing, but I think we pretty much got most of them there. So we didn't cover a lot of websites for tomatoes because we kind of did that the other day, I think. But
Yeah, we did. So
um,
if there's anything we're missing here, check out our first part 1 of this. It's over on our channel,
On
Plowman's
Kendra's
Backyard.
channel.
But we go over basically all the websites that we would use or companies we would use to buy our seeds. And we do cover some of like non-GMO versus organic and open pollinated and hybrid and stuff like that. So if you miss that discussion, go check that out. The only thing I know that we really didn't cover is all the herbs and stuff like that,
Mm,
but that could be
yeah,
another day.
that might have to be a part 3. Maybe we'll do that one together in person.
That would be nice.
Yeah, that would be nice. We could have a nice tea time together and answer questions about herb seeds and what our favorites are.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, part
what is
3
the
herbs.
information for the onion nursery? So this is this is a local nursery here in Ontario, sort of local to us, but it's worth the drive. So it's Connaught Nursery, but they don't ship. So are they just on Facebook, I wonder? I'm
I
not
don't know.
sure. Nursery. I'm going to look them up and see if I can find what I can find on them. So I don't see a website, but I do see Facebook. I will not be able to open that on here. Oh, I guess I was able to open it. Okay. Just give me 1 sec. I'm going to get a better link here. Okay. So if you are in Ontario and you want to drive out, so they request that you do your ordering ahead of time, and then I think it's like mid-May maybe, that you go and you pick up your stuff up. So I hope that link works. Do you want to see? Maybe Jay can see if that works. Anyways, if you look them up, Connaught Nursery, they're in Mixburg area. And they have the, let's see, they have rosemary, they have herbs, they have perennial flowers, they have all kinds of stuff. But they are the place that I first saw peach trees grown in a greenhouse without any heat. And that's what kind of motivated us, from what I can remember, to grow our peach trees in the greenhouse. So
Yeah, the
definitely
website
learn
worked.
a lot from them. Great, thank you. Oh, I didn't know. It's Grace Ann.
Hi, Grace Ann.
Hi, Grace Ann. How you doing? Well, then you are local enough to them. And actually, if you order anything when I go to pick up my stuff, I could always pick up your stuff for you. So, yeah, they have I'm trying to think. They had onions, they had all kinds of stuff, broccoli, they had cauliflower, they had a myriad of stuff. It's listed on their Facebook page. So, if you go there, as long as it's up, they have it. And then they'll take down the varieties as they run out. So now's the time, though. The sooner you look, the better your chances of them not running out of stuff that you want. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to call it a night. Thank you so much for coming out and joining us for our chat. It's been a good night. I think we've discussed a lot tonight. And thank you for your patience, because it is my first live. So Kendra
You did
was
good. You did good.
helping me out here. But good night, everybody, and God bless.
Yes. Bye now. Thanks for having us.
Yes, thanks for having us.